Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. You know, my optometrist recently fell into the lens-making machine. She sure made a spectacle out of herself. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at G.I. Joe deck-building game, New Alliances from Renegade Game Studios. We'll get back to the review in just a moment. I want to take a minute to ask you to check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about history, books on history, military history. I even post some of my lectures for my classes on there. Please check that out. Please subscribe to that channel. And now, back to the review. New Alliances is the latest expansion to your G.I. Joe deck-building game, and this one stars Transformers. That's right, the Transformers have come to help out the G.I. Joes as they wage their war against Cobra and apparently the Decepticons. Now there's two new boards you're going to get with this game. You're going to get the Ark, which of course is the spaceship that the Autobots arrived in. You're going to go ahead and set that off to the side. You're also going to get the Star Bridge, which you're going to place on its kind of building side. You're going to place that off to the side at the beginning of the game as well. Now you're also going to have Energon Cubes, which are pink dice, which the Autobots are very often going to have access to, and you're going to start with a couple of them in the Ark, and at different times, different things you'll do will allow you to add more of those Energon Cubes to the Ark. Now you're going to have a number of new cards, Joe's, utility, transport gear, and what you're going to do is you want to remove from the original main deck a similar number of those cards, so you've got the same number of cards in the deck. You're going to mix those in. You'll create this unique story deck, which features the Transformers in them as well. You'll have Optimus Prime's trailer, which is a towable asset. Now you can play this with your regular towable assets or just with this expansion. You're also going to put a deck of Constructicons near the main deck, as well as mini cassettes near the main deck as well, and they'll come out when certain events trigger them. You're also going to mix in a number of complication cards with the original core game complication cards as well. Now, while you'll have some Autobots mixed into the main deck, you'll also create 3 small decks of face-down Autobot cards near you. Now, depending on what act you're in, you'll gain access to recruiting them. So you can recruit directly from the main deck, or you can recruit from the special Autobot pool that will be open to you with each act. Now, you'll have Bumblebee start in the Ark, so you'll have access to him at the beginning of the game. Now, you can use Autobots in a couple of ways. First of all, for all intents and purposes, they function like Joes. They can go on missions. But here's the thing. Where Joes need to take transportation, Autobots don't. So you can go ahead and put a number of Joes with a vehicle out there, but the Autobots can just arrive on their own. And they're in bot form. Now, when they're in bot form, they have access to their kind of bot abilities. You can read the text. If they've got Energon they're rolling, that's great. Sometimes they may have access to roll the simple, basic G.I. Joe dice as well. But you can also use the Transformer as the transport. What you do in that case is you actually just look at the bottom of the Transformer card, and you can place heroes in there depending on what the limit is. Now, that will grant you access to the alt form, right? The vehicle form of the Transformer. Again, you can roll die depending on what it says or do other interesting actions that it allows you to do. Now, you can never have more than 5 Autobots face up in the Ark. So if you wanted to recruit one, you would have to go and take one and put it in your own discard pile. You can place the Autobots in the Ark, which automatically puts Energon there, and you're going to get more Energon at the end of the round, and other events will allow you to gain more Energon throughout the game. When the Autobots come up in your hand at the beginning of your turn, you place them in the Ark. You can still use them if you want to for missions, but that's kind of, you recruit them to your discard, they come up in your hand, they go to the Ark, you can use them again. If you use them, they go immediately to your discard. Now, the Ark itself has a couple of modules on it,
Teletron and a repair bay, and they do some funky actions, but you have to pay, and they're like group actions. They're disabled, and you have to pay to repair them, and then you have access to them for the rest of the game. Now, if you've got the Teletron active, if you've got a Autobot on a mission, you get a +2 to either the tracker or the recon trait. Now, if you have the repair bay active, you can discard a card in your hand in order to move one of the Autobots from your discard pile back to the Ark. Again, that gets energon and makes them available for future missions. Now, you have the Constructicons. Now, the Constructicons, of course, they were the construction Decepticons, and what happens is various events will trigger that will give you Constructicons. Constructicons act like Cobra battalions, but instead of going from left to right, they go from right to left. And where the battalions mean if they're all out, they will end the game. With the Constructicons, they can go all out. That just means it costs more to recruit a card under it. But if all 6 of them get out, then they create the Devastator. And if he's out there, what that means is the story mission is going to be worth more for every Constructicon beneath him. So you got to take out the Destructicons and take him out in order to get a good shot at going after the story mission. As I say, you also have the mini cassettes. Again, various things may trigger which bring out mini cassettes. These are kind of like complications, but they can do all sorts of funky things to really screw up your attempts to win the game. Now, as I say, you have the towable asset for Prime's trailer. If you want to take that along with you, you have to discard 1 Joe if there's an Autobot on the mission, or 2 Joes if there are no Autobots on the mission. As I say, you also have the Sky Bridge, certain events. I think this kicks in at the end of the first act. Various things will move the tracker along the Sky Bridge, and bad things will happen as it gets closer and closer. Once it gets all the way, it flips over, and then the Decepticons are going to be able to have access to reinforcements. Not good. So that is basically what you get with the new G.I. Joe New Alliances expansion. This expansion is, of course, unique because you've got those kooky Transformers in it. It's kind of a fun little crossover they're doing here. Now, I had reviewed the Transformers deck building game about last year, I think, and I was underwhelmed with it. I was not a fan of the Transformers game. And then I loved the G.I. Joe game. I thought the G.I. Joe game was great. And that's just the way I'd like it, because I was always much more interested in G.I. Joe than I was in Transformers. So it's very interesting kind of to see that crossover of IPs here, and it was kind of fun and interesting. I didn't know how well I'd like it based on my experience with the Transformers DBG, and just generally, I thought it kind of a mishmash, I don't know. But I ended up liking it. I ended up liking the way they interact. I ended up liking how Transformers, you can use them as both bots, like other Joes, and as transportation, and still get some advantages. I thought that was really, really cool. But I'll tell you this, it's tough. It's those Constructicons keep coming out, those cassettes keep coming out, the complications are tough. The story missions themselves are some of the toughest story missions I've played. And of course, it has to be because you get some really cool advantages with the Autobots there. So I think this is a solid expansion. Probably not my favorite expansion. I think of the 3, the Shadow of the Serpent's still probably my favorite. I liked Cold Snap 2, and I like this one a lot as well. But it's probably my least favorite of the 3. So if you, unless you're a real big Transformers fan, if you're looking to get expansions, I'd start with Shadow of the Serpent. But if you're completist like I am, you're definitely going to want to get this. You're definitely going to want to put it in your collection. It's a lot of fun. I love this game. I love how it sucks me back into my childhood, and I relive those G.I. Joe adventures. And this is easily the most thematic deck building games I've ever played, and so that's a lot of fun here as well. So recommendation for G.I. Joe deck building game New Alliances is buy it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us today for The Discriminating Gamer. As always, I ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. I'd ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. I'd also ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to please check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about military history and books on history and fun things like that. I'm currently uploading my World War II lectures on that site, so please check that out. And I'd also ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to subscribe to that channel. That would mean a lot to me. Please give a like to this video here on YouTube and on the Board Game Geek. That helps us out a lot. And if you really are a fan of the channel and you like the content we produce here, please consider clicking on the Super Thanks button here on the YouTube page and making a contribution. That would help us out a lot as well. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I recently had my home child-proofed. But they keep finding their way back in.
Please somebody help me on my feet again. And I don't know where I'm going, and I don't back.
5, 6, 7.
Man, what a revolting change of fortune.